Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Microtech and Rike Anax. So this is manufactured by Rike in China, but it is designed by Microtech. This is an authorized collaboration for anybody who doesn't know what's going on. There was an original Anax that was a Microtech custom from a long time ago. Super expensive. This knife is still expensive, but it is way, way less expensive than what it would cost Microtech to actually make this today in the United States. We're going to talk all about that. These knives are periodically available at microtechgear.com. They make it a little bit confusing. Like you have to... I didn't know that website existed, and it is separate from the official Microtech website. I found it on their Instagram page. I actually bought mine from the secondary market because I was late to the game. I do have this, and then I have another example. Somebody sent me theirs. Theirs is actually a little bit better. We're going to talk about that, but you'll have to go to the Microtech Gear website to pick these up, and they will only periodically be available. So it really depends on when you're watching this video. Thank you so much to the gentleman who sent theirs in so that I could compare. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. Not a small knife, not at all. Overall length of the Anax is coming in at 8.5 inches. The blade length is coming in at 3.6 inches, and your cutting edge is coming in at 3.5 inches on the dot. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. As you can see here, it really is almost exactly the same length as the Rat 2, but it does not carry quite as chunky. This is a weird knife. It's an integral, meaning it's all one piece of titanium on the frame, and those are solid titanium scales, a little pocket milled out for the carbon fiber, and then not necessarily a light blade, but it just feels a little, to me, it feels a little bit more compact than the Rat, but it has a different weight and different balance. We'll talk more about that. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. This guy's a little bit longer than the PM2. Definitely longer than the Para 3. And then finally, we'll do the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. So there you go. How's the action on this guy? Well, it started off kind of tight, and it's gotten a little bit better. I made some adjustments to this because if you guys did not know, it actually comes. I know a lot of you are looking. This is the other one I have. A lot of you are looking at the hardware and going, "Oh no, proprietary hardware." And I agree. Like, I don't like that we just can't have a regular freaking Torx bit, but they do provide 1/4-inch bits for the pivot and all of the scale screws and things like that, the pocket clip screws. So it's there. The action on this one is okay. You can front flip it. You can, which is, it does not make the best front flipper. That gets really, like, this area right here is not my favorite in the whole world for front flipping. Doing the reverse flip, however, very good. I've been carrying and using this knife a little bit, right? I have over 100 knives. So the process leading up to review, carry, and use, number one, I don't use my knives for, apparently people use their knives as boat anchors. They pry up the foundation of their home with their knives. You take apart and reassemble your lawnmower with your pocket knife. I'm kidding. But basically what I'm saying is whenever you say I use my knives on the internet, on social media, what people expect to see is a blade that is barely a blade anymore. It should be covered in dirt and, I don't know what else. The blade should, a properly used blade should have chunks out of it. It definitely can't be sharp. Any knife, anybody, who's got half a brain knows that if you really use your knife, it's not going to be sharp at all, right? Yeah. I'm kidding, but I've been carrying this guy for a couple of weeks and using it for simple things, simple everyday things in my life. I'm not going to go out of my way to do something that is not normal for my day-to-day. So just cutting some cardboard, things like that, carrying it, using it, not really babying it or anything. So it's not going to show a whole lot of use, but it has broken in a little bit. The action on this particular one has gotten a little bit better. I did try to recenter mine because it had an issue with centering, which unfortunately could not be corrected on this one. It's hard since this is one piece of titanium. I can't do my usual trick with the body screws, which usually help adjust and align the blade in combination with adjusting the pivot. Now this other one that is also brand new is perfectly centered, and the action is a little bit better even without I don't know what the deal is. Mine, this one that I have, you know, and it was also brand new. The gentleman I bought it from had shown me the box was still sealed. Literally everything was still sealed. So it tells me that there's a chance that you're going to get a funky one. And I remember, you know, with my SOCOM Bravo, I got a perfect one. But I remember hearing other people saying theirs were not so perfect. So this is the thing. You might get a perfect one and you might not, right? It's obviously easy for me to tell whose is whose because mine is the one that's not centered and does not have, it's good action, but it's not quite as good as this. This is very smooth, nearly free falling. So really good there. But yeah, manipulation of this knife is easy thanks to the large fuller in the blade and the ample amount of room to disengage the lock bar. Though keep in mind the jimping there is very unnecessarily aggressive. Like, I mean, that's not the right way to say this. It is aggressive in a very unnecessary way. I don't know why they were like, we got to make sure that when people are disengaging this lock that they really have a firm, there's a lot of traction built up there. So yeah, this is a little bit too aggressive there. But anyways, let's go ahead and do carry profile, getting too caught up in this. Thickness, it's really not all that thick. It's about the same as a Spyderco Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. You can see here, this guy is really not, it looks like it would be massively tall. It's really not. It's actually not even as tall as the Spyderco PM2. I'm just checking to make sure that I still have my uncentered one out here. It's definitely a little bit longer than the Para 3, but yeah, it's really not bad. Usually integral knives kind of have this natural chunkiness and heaviness about them because they are, you know, it's so much titanium. This guy, because there is so much blade, it actually counterbalances with the back end of the knife pretty well. And so the knife, as a result, does not feel ultra heavy. And when it folds up, somehow, a lot of that really tall blade kind of disappears into the handle, which is nice. Let's go ahead and weigh this knife real quick so you guys can get a good idea of how much it weighs. That was really long-winded and unnecessary. The weight of this knife is 5.08 ounces, which is very much expected with this being an integral knife. Truthfully, even if this was not an integral knife, that would not be an insane weight. It's 8.5 inches with a 3.6 inch blade, and there's a lot of titanium. So while it is not a perfect ratio of, you know, an ounce for every inch of blade, which is generally what we try to shoot for, it's not bad for an 8.5 inch integral knife. Pretty okay with that. I'd do a hardware check, but as you can see here, we have these ridiculous, you know, triangle screws. And, you know, truth be told, they look cool, right? It's kind of neat. When I adjusted mine, I slipped. You can see right... Can we see the part? Yeah, right. There's, if I turn it just right, you can see kind of a mark right there. No big deal. I mean, this is a user. But it's annoying, right? Because these are not normal heads. And while the depth is okay, it's just, they're just more likely to slip. And it's obnoxious. If you lose the tool or if you screw the tool up, then you're kind of just SOL. So yeah, it's fine. I'm glad they provided the tools. You can adjust it. This is an integral, so if you do need to adjust or disassemble this knife, there's really not a lot to do. You just take the pivot out. The blade will come out, and then the scales don't come apart because it's one scale. It's one piece, right? You can take the pocket clip off. You can take the LBS disc out if you want to. You can even take the lock bar insert out if you want to. I wouldn't recommend that, but you can. Everything else is just, right, it's just the frame. So given that they have provided you the tool, disassembly is very easy and it is extremely minimal. It should be, in fact, maintenance on this knife should be pretty straightforward unless you lose the tool. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. My calipers are truly on their last leg. But we have replacement batteries ready to go for the day that it actually dies. So blade stock thickness on this guy coming in fairly thick, actually, at 154 thousandths. I did not expect that because the actual cutting edge is fairly thin. So there you go. All right. So this is a good looking knife, and it's been a good looking knife for a long time. I mean, this is largely, there's a couple of differences. I don't have an original Anax here to compare with. There are some aesthetic differences, but it's largely the same design. The best part about this knife is the very open ergonomic lines, and while I am not in love with the pocket clip aesthetic or functionality, it does create for a nearly zero hotspot experience. This is a really comfortable knife to hang on to, and it's honestly a pretty awesome knife to use. The blade, while every now and then what I was cutting was getting hung up in this area right here, it was really minimal. The edge is quite thin. It makes short work of pretty much anything that I use it on. Cutting something like paper, and you're not having edges of the paper roll up or anything like that. So yeah, it's an efficient slicer. It's not an absolute laser beam. You're not using an Opinel or anything like that, but it does glide through material. Obviously, your experience is going to vary depending on what you're cutting, but it's pretty good. I really like how everything looks. It feels good and it looks good, which sometimes can be a little bit tricky. These edges down here are really nicely chamfered, and the actual, seating of the hardware and everything like that, how everything's laid in, that part is really good. Let me stress this. This one right here is literally perfect. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that I have found on this knife that looks to be any type of issue. On mine, I have a few issues. First off, the carbon fiber. I have these weird, it's like some fibers that are just sticking up right here, and those little white flakes. That looks crappy. That should not, we shouldn't have that at all. Like, otherwise the carbon fiber would look great, but these weird little flakes right here, I've never seen that before. And I'm sure it happens, but on this type, usually what I expect to see with carbon fiber is like on shred carbon fiber, you see the voids or something like that, which is kind of an eyesore, but that's just par for the course with that specific type of carbon fiber. This type of carbon fiber, which is just kind of straightforward, generally I don't see stuff like that. I don't see voids, and I definitely don't see these weird little white fibers sticking up, but I'm seeing it on this one, so that's kind of a bummer. I also have, initially I thought maybe it was surface corrosion or the start of a patina. I think it's just burn marks from where they, they did a different finish on these lines right here, and you can see just barely, it's like kind of down there, on this side there's nothing. On this side everything's good to go, but on this side we have these little burn marks right here, which bothers me. I've also heard, because this is a bead blasted finish, yes, it's M390, and M390 is super stainless, right? Yeah, well, when you bead blast a blade, doesn't matter what the composition is, it makes whatever that composition's general corrosion resistance, right, it lessens it because you're making little micro pits in it. A high polish, the higher polish finish you get on a blade, the better the corrosion resistance, right? It's not just static, right? If it's 14% chrome, I think actually M390 is somewhere between 18 and 20% chromium, and I don't know how much carbon. It's definitely stainless. But finished like this, yeah, definitely you can, it's gonna corrode faster than, let's say, a high polish M390 blade. These do not appear to have any corrosion on them, but I have heard multiple times from people, not just with this, but the Rike and Microtech SOCOM Bravo, there were people saying, hey, I've got little, corrosion spots, little tiny dots on my blade. So I think Microtech and Rike should drop this bead blast finish and go for something like a higher polish stonewash or even a satin finish. Truthfully, I like the aesthetic of how this looks better than a satin finish. I'm really bored with belt satin finishes, but if it's gonna, help reduce or help mitigate those little tiny bits of surface corrosion that seem to be forming during shipment, then maybe that's for the better. Personally, I think ideally the best finish for the blade would be a medium to high polish stonewashed finish. But that's just me. And they could still do the satin flats right here and give a nice contrast. But I think the bead blast thing should be given up. I just don't think that's a very good way to go. The other thing, the other issue that I pointed out is that this blade just will not center no matter what I do, and I have tried every trick. Thank you for your inevitable suggestions down in the comments. And seriously, thank you, but it will not center. It's just not gonna do it. So that's a bummer. I don't like to see that. The edges, curiously, on the inside of this are a little bit sharp. It's not too bad, but really, I really do like, we've got a bevel here, and then it's flat, and then it drops down into here, and then this fuller area is bead blasted, and then comes up here, and then we have the polished flat, and then the bevel down to the final cutting bevel is bead blasted, and it's just nice. It makes the blade look really cool. It's also crowned up here, which is nice. You can see that fuller comes right out here and it sort of gives the blade this sort of harpoon look. We have these two separate areas of jimping that are textured differently than this initial area of jimping, and it's just a lot going on. I like it. It's cool. Everything sort of transitions into its own little thing. The back here, these little like giant golf ball divots, they look cool. The back of this knife looks awesome. In fact, the overall aesthetic and the body lines of everything, the blade and the handle, it all looks great. It's very easy to manipulate outside of the unnecessary jimping on the lock bar, right? The detent is where it should be. I mean, there's no flipper here, so it's not a super heavy detent. If it was, it would be a lot harder to deploy. This is one of those knives where you can definitely sort of whip it out, but the only time that's going to be a problem is if you're somebody who finds yourself regularly sprinting with a knife in your pocket, which is something that can happen, but not something that should be happening all the time to anyone, right? So just ask yourself what your day-to-day is going to be like. Like, just ask yourself, like, am I going to sprint today? And if the answer is yes, probably not this, right? Obviously, you can't help it if you're being chased by a bear or a ninja or something else, a land octopus, whatever. I don't know what you're being chased by in this imaginary scenario. Not the best. The detent is okay. It's tuned right for this knife. Just bear that in mind, right? It's not going to be exactly right for everybody. Microtech still insists on putting this enormous, ugly, like it has to say Microtech, and it has to have the serial number, and it has to say the date, and it has to say Anax, single edge on it, right? Why? Get rid of all this and just the M390, fine, right? On this side, it has the Rike logo, and I think that's okay, right? They were like, so here's what we do, right? We like put this big giant billboard all over the front of the blade, okay? We put a lot of numbers and serial numbers and crap. We put that all over the place just to make sure and let people know. But you can do the other side of the blade however you want. What do you want on there? And Rike's like, oh, we just put our logo. That's fine. Like, why? Come on, man. Like, I've been complaining about this for 4 years, and many people before me have complained about this. We don't need this. We don't need this crap all over the blade. It looks bad. The rest of this knife looks great. The only part of this knife that looks bad is all this crap all over it, right? If you want to put it on the inside, right? Or put it, I don't know, I would even be happier if it was like back, I don't know if that's actually true, but just somewhere else, not on the blade. It just looks, or just don't put it on there at all. How about that? Back here we have a lanyard butthole, which is a space for you to put these weird metal dingly danglies that it comes with, right? You can go with metal stinger thing, or you can go with metal, some sort of timpani mallet, right? Or whatever this is supposed to be. And so the idea here is that you can screw these in, and now you have this on the back of your knife. Should I demonstrate the other one just so you can see how it looks? And some people are going to look at this and go, yes, I would like my knife to look like a robot hornet going in for a kill, or a sting. Maybe you just like this. Truthfully, I think the best part about these pieces is that they can easily be removed and forgotten about forever, because that is what I have done with the two that came with mine. So there you go. The pocket clip is 3D milled titanium, and that's great. I love that. There's a lot of detail in the pocket clip. I just don't like the ball bearing clips, the ceramic ball clips. It does roll. That ball rolls in there, and the idea is apparently it's supposed to be easy to like push it in and pull it out. It's so pinchy. It really is like aggressively hanging onto your pants. Now I've found that this thing in and out of the pocket while I was carrying it, it just was way, holding on way too tight, right? So the funny thing about that is that for somebody who plans on sprinting with their knife in their pocket, the knife will not leave your pocket. It'll stay there, right? You just have an increased chance of the thing accidentally opening up in your pocket if the thing moves back and forth, right? If it's up against the back seam. So it's kind of funny. The retention on this clip is so ridiculous. If you don't mind holding one part of your pocket seam with your non-dominant hand and then using your dominant hand to aggressively push the knife into your pocket, then okay. I don't like that, and I don't like how aggressive this, I just like, stuff like this, easy, right? This is just like every time in and out, it's a fight. And I don't want to have to dedicate that much brain power to something as simple as putting my knife in my pocket, right? It just shouldn't, it should not be a big, epic, dramatic experience. It should just be in and out. This side of the knife looks great. Honestly, the blue accents look cool. I think they offer this in both bronze and blue. Why, Microtech, do you not offer one that's just gray? Why do we have to have the color? It's fine, it looks good, but some people don't want that. Just gray, right? Like we get with, I don't know, every other Microtech. Why? Why do we have to have the color on there? I don't know. The blue's fine, and they did a good job with the ano, right? This is an LBS disc, meaning it is a lock bar stabilizer, a Rike Anax lock bar stabilizer. So you will have stabilization this way, like it will keep the lock bar from going this way, and it will also keep it from over traveling. The lock bar insert does not double as an over travel stop, so you just have the disc, but that's really all you need. So yeah, you're fine there. Let's see. We are running on bearings. I feel like that was pretty obvious. We have a big, really big stop barrel back there, and we have a little bit of shouldering, and that's nice, right? The snap and the lock open position, it sounds really good when it locks out. It's very authoritative. The lock, I hate front flipping this. I hate it. This makes This is a garbage front flipper. I mean, not totally garbage. If I had to letter grade it, I'd give it a D. It's just not fun to front flip. But you know what? You can deploy it this way. You can also just wheel it out like this, or you can flick it out like that. That's fine. Plenty of ways to deploy it. Lockup. Absolutely solid. No hint of wiggle in any direction. There is no lock stick. There is no pivot lash, and there's a nice click into the closed position. We are locking up, the lockup geometry looks good, and we're locking up at something like 40%, which is great. I like that. And unfortunately, the centering is off, but there's no detent lash or anything like that. And the same thing is true with this guy. It's just everything is smooth. This viewer's knife is better in every way. It's just better. And I think the lockup percentage is actually, is it a little bit less on this guy? Yeah, it is. A little bit less, right? So you're going to have variations in action, centering, lockup percentage, but the detent strength feels the same. It feels identical. Both of them feel exactly the same. So yeah. All right, so what's the price on this knife? These are $450. And before anybody freaks out, a couple of things you need to remember. One, this is an integral knife. These factually cost more money to make. It costs a lot more to mill this accurately, and if you screw up, right, it's not like you just throw away one side. Nope, you throw away that whole block. It's milled from a single block of titanium. That is a lot of work. It is expensive. But I don't care about that. That's not a value to me. That doesn't matter. It's not like if it's not a value to you, it suddenly is less expensive for, like, Rike's like, oh, guys, people don't value this. It's suddenly less expensive for us to create. No, it's still factually expensive for them to create, right? If this isn't for you, then it isn't for you. That's all there is to it. But it does cost more money. If they were to make this exact knife, right? Because there's people going, why doesn't Microtech just make this knife, right? Well, it's because this would cost $1,000 or more. Easily over $1,000. To do it exactly like this, this is very precision. I mean, again, you're looking at carbon fiber, titanium, and M390. And on paper, you look at those materials and you go, okay, titanium, carbon fiber, and M390, and it's made in China. I'm thinking $250 to $300, right? It depends on how it's executed, right? If it's kind of slapped together and it's two pieces of titanium, then sure. Nah, that's unfair. There's a lot of companies doing it really well. Rike has good precision milling. Their execution is far, like stupid little things like centering and like these weird, issues with the carbon fiber and the bead blasting, the choice of the bead blasting and the inconsistent, sort of like the finish work on the blades, how readily it accepts corrosion, right? Little things like that kind of bother me, but the actual milling, like the machine work on this is really epic, and it is an integral, and we are, again, looking at premium materials. So the fact that this is made in China is only one element. It is still going to be expensive, and honestly, that is a very aggressive pricing. I am shocked that something that was designed by Microtech and it's something that is being sold by Microtech actually has an aggressive price tag. And by that, I mean a competitive price tag. You look at other Chinese integrals on the market and you are lucky to find one at $450. And a lot of times they don't have as much detail, right? A lot of the integrals that I've seen lately are 500, 600, or even 700. James Brand, sorry. Weird cough, right? $700, which is of course ridiculous. But yeah, it's honestly that's pretty competitive. Now, if they were all as consistent, like if they were all consistently like this, I would be so over the moon. If I had received this one, I would have been like, man, this is amazing, right? But having received this one, I realized, some of those rumors about not all of these being perfect is true. So Rike, I know that you guys can really knock it out of the park. I've seen some other work beyond what they're doing with Microtech, and they have done some amazing stuff. They are capable of some truly incredible manufacturing. But some of these are hit or miss. What percentage? I don't know. You probably have. I just judging by what I've heard, I have no way to factually say whether or not this is the case. But it seems like about 2 to 5%. Of the people who are picking these up are saying, like, I've got a weird little issue with mine, And the truth is that you're much more likely to hear from people if there's an issue, right? So a lot of people say, well, I've heard of all sorts of problems, right? I hear that all the time. Well, if every single person who bought one were to share their experience, including the people who were happy with them, then they would absolutely drown out the voices from people saying, I'm having an issue with mine. The reason that you are seemingly hearing that all the time is because those are the people who are speaking up. Generally, people who are happy with them go, yeah, that's good, and they don't say anything, right? So, yeah, I don't know. 2 to 5% is just a guess. Pricing, overall, like, milling quality and seating of the hardware, things like that is good. There's just some weird little tiny things that should be, like centering should be absolutely perfect on a $450 knife. No exceptions, right? If it is off-center, the only reason it should be off-center is if the pivot is not screwed down completely. I expected to screw that pivot down completely and find that it was just coming off a little bit, but no, that was not the case. It's just, this one is just a little bit goofy. That should never happen, right? Just like, if you make 10,000 of these, and 10 of them are off-center, then that would be acceptable, but having one be off center, I mean, who knows? Maybe that is the case. Maybe 10 of them exist that are off center, and I just happen to get one. But these should be centered, right? I don't like seeing the burn marks here. I don't like seeing the goofy carbon fiber. This is just an absolute goofer. So that's a real bummer. So this review would have been a lot different if mine had been much more like this, but this is one of those things where if you buy this knife, you might get one that's really, really good, or you might get one that's like mine. I don't know. It's probably not a 50-50 dice roll. Like I said, it's probably very few of them are like mine and many more of them are like this one. But this is a cool design, and I like more about it than I don't like, right? And I think the pricing, if you get one like this, is beyond fair, right? For anybody who's going to complain, I'm sorry. I disagree with you completely. Not only do I think the price is fair, I think the price is absurdly competitive. And it shocks me that it's Microtech and they are not charging some ridiculous amount for this thing. So yeah, that's really how I feel. This is a cool knife. Not really a knife that I'm saying everybody's gotta rush out and buy it right now. It's not going to be for everybody, but the people who do pick it up, you will probably be happy with it. I'm gonna keep mine. I'm gonna keep carrying and using it. I'm just gonna deal with the fact that it's off-centered. It'll probably get more and more beat up as time, progresses, but it's not my only knife. I've got a bajillion knives in rotation, so it'll probably never look, like the rusted hunk of crap that a used knife is supposed to look like, according to some people. Yeah, it's cool. Let me know what you think. If you pick this knife up, tell me what you think. Leave your comments down below. I always like to hear about it. That's going to be pretty much it for today's video. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.